On behalf of the KMU May 1st movement, I wish to express our warmest solidarity with all workers, unions, and labor advocates who gathered today for the launching of the Lucy Gonzalez Aldain Parsons Institute. We are very honored to have been invited to and to actually participate in this launching. Before going further, I wish to express our sympathy to the victims of Super Typhoon Sandy in the East Coast. We hope for their speedy recovery from the great devastation. The legacy of Lucy Gonzalez Parsons lived with the working class. Amidst intensified attack on wages, right to freedom of association and collective bargaining agreement, pensions and social services, all of which were won by workers through hard struggle, we remember Lucy Gonzalez Parsons, who took the challenge of organizing workers. Her involvement in the International Ladies Garment Workers Union, Industrial Workers of the World, and the historic May 1st strike inspired workers until today toward radical activism. Lucy Gonzalez Parsons embodied a trade unionist who fought racist and sexist ideas that operate under the severe exploitative capitalist system, who criticized government measures that protect capitalists and reminded others that reforms do not bring significant change in the lives of workers as long as the capitalist-dominated economic system, who organized protests against hunger and unemployment, and who gave her life to the cause of the workers and the poor. We congratulate the dedicated activists behind the establishment of the Lucy Gonzalez Parsons Institute. We wish the Institute success in attaining its goal of providing educational resources and various services to workers of the U.S. as a contribution to the struggle to advance workers' rights and to achieve social justice. Your initiatives to support the cause of workers is most valuable in the face of worsening global economic and financial crisis, when workers' rights are being viciously attacked. Now more than ever, workers need to educate and organize among our ranks and to collectively struggle in defense of our basic rights. What are the impacts of U.S. neoliberal policies on the workers and peoples of the world? We have to recall that neoliberal policies were implemented in response to the crisis of overproduction that hit the world capitalist system in the 1970s. Their main objective is to boost monopoly capitalist super profits by 1. Pressing down workers' wages, and 2. Reducing government spending on social services such as health, education, and housing, both in advanced capitalist countries like the US and the so-called third world countries like the Philippines. Neoliberal policies through liberalization, deregulation, and privatization have resulted in the pressing down of workers' wages. The main objective of neoliberal policies is to crush all resistance from obtaining super profits. Thus, neoliberal policies' main targets are the unions. It is now widely known that in the US, the center of the world capitalist system, wages have been stagnant since the 1970s. In the Philippines, nominal wages have been increased by meager amounts, amounting to a cut on real wages. The pressing down of workers' wages has been accomplished through many forms. In different countries, labor law reforms were introduced. New schemes for fixing wages were implemented. Workloads were increased, often in violation of workers' rights, such as the 8-hour workday, contractual employment, and other flexible labor schemes were promoted. The denial of benefits and security of tenure to workers was legalized. Workers' rights to form unions and lone strikes were violated and undermined. Neoliberal policies have also resulted in reduced government spending on social services. In the US, this has resulted in the intensification of the commodification of health, education, and social services, which has in turn resulted in greater indebtedness for American workers and people. In the Philippines, this has resulted in increased payments to avail social services, reduced access of workers and the poor to social services, and the deterioration of the quality of social services available to workers and the poor. In sum, Neoliberal policies have increased monopoly capitalist super profits and have increased poverty and misery for the workers and people of the world. The inequality that the Occupy protests in the US criticized was made worse by the implementation of neoliberal policies. The worst effect of these policies can be seen in the underdeveloped countries such as the Philippines, where they have resulted in extreme poverty, widespread hunger and malnutrition, and even the plunder and destruction of the environment. Filipino workers are suffering from meager wages, denial of job security and benefits through contractual employment and other flexible employment schemes, and various violations of the right to form unions and launch strikes and other trade union rights. The chronic unemployment in the country is being used by big foreign and local capitalists to blackmail workers into accepting poor working conditions. At the same time, Filipino workers are becoming ever more eager to learn more about their situation and the ruling system, form unions and other organizations, and fight for the right and interests of their class and those of the Filipino people. Since the implementation of the wage rationalization law in 1989, wage setting in the Philippines has been regionalized. The minimum wage in Manila is the highest in the country, currently at $426 or US $10.32 a day. This is less than half of the family living wage in the region, which is pegged independently by a think tank foundation called Ibon. It has pegged to the amount of 993 or roughly the equivalent of 24 US dollars a day in April 2011. The gap between the minimum wage and the family living wage has widened through the years. In 2001, the minimum wage is 50% of the family living wage. By 2011, it has already slid to a mere 40%. There are almost yearly increases in workers' wages across the country, but these increases are meager and added only to the cost of living allowance. That's why workers are clamoring for a significant wage hike, such as the 125 pesos across the board wage hike nationwide, which is only possible through legislation. Big capitalists and successive governments have rejected this call. They have pointed doomsday scenarios of soaring inflation and massive retrenchment whenever calls for a significant wage hike grow louder. Now, the government of Benigno Noynoy Aquino III seeks to further cut and freeze workers' wages through the so-called two-tiered wage system, as implemented in one of the country's regions which has a relatively high concentration of workers. The minimum wage was replaced by a lower floor wage amounting to an almost 25% wage cut. At the same time, workers are being enticed to work harder to get productivity-based increases, which will be decided on by the very capitalists who have refused to increase wages. The denial of job security and benefits through contractual employment. Since the legislation of Herrera Law in 1989, an amendment to the country's labor code, the number of contractual workers have steadily increased. Now they comprise the majority of workers in the country. They are hired under a contract that lasts for 5 months, or are hired as permanent contractuals, denying the right to form unions, collective bargaining, and benefits. They can be terminated anytime. Whenever capitalists find out they are forming unions, they are immediately terminated from work, and women contractuals do not enjoy maternity benefits. There are violations of rights to form unions and hold strikes and other trade union rights. Laws in the Philippines have made it more difficult for workers to form unions. Capitalists can easily nip union formation in the bud by removing workers from work. Majority of the country's manufacturing workers are in special economic zones, among which are the export processing zones. Capitalists and the government maintain a high level of surveillance in these zones in order to prevent workers from forming unions. To weaken workers' strikes, the Secretary of Labor was given the power to assume jurisdiction over labor disputes, or the assumption jurisdiction, as this power has been called, means that workers must immediately return to work and refrain from actions that may be construed as aggravating the dispute, or else face retrenchment or criminal charges, or both. The military and the police can be brought into the workplace, and the massacre of striking farm workers in Hacienda Luisita in November 1624 is a clear illustration of what the AJ can legalize, or what may happen to workers asserting their rights. Within the first year of President Aquino alone, there have been 218 cases of violation of workers' rights, affecting 33,178 workers. 5 unionists and urban poor activists have been killed extrajudicially under the regime of Mr. Aquino. We have to raise the consciousness, organization, and mobilization of workers and the people to a higher level that will enable us to cause basic reforms in the short term and advance revolution in the long run. Amidst the severe global economic and financial crisis, the workers and peoples of advanced capitalist countries must thwart the potential or actual emergence of fascism and imperialism, use of wars of aggression to divide the people. The workers and peoples of underdeveloped countries must defend and uphold collective and individual rights and fight for genuine land reform, national industrialization, and struggle for socialism. Co-workers, let us expand and deepen our information and education campaigns. Let us deepen our understanding of the situation of workers and the people. Let us inform and educate the broad masses of workers and people of the fundamental causes of poverty and other problems that they may experience. Let us study and promote the study of socialist writings on capitalist political economy and monopoly capitalist system. Let us shatter the illusions that are being spread by neoliberal and free market thinkers and propagandists. Let us propagate the urgent need for socialism and for workers and people's conscious and organized militant action. Let us organize the broadest number of workers and people into unions and other mass organization on the basis of their immediate and long-term interests. Let us help build mass organization of various classes and sectors in society. Let us develop as many activists and leaders as we can from the grassroots level. Let us heighten our participation in the struggle and international alliances like the International League of People's Struggle that unite the workers and people of the world along the general anti-imperialist line. Let us mobilize the broadest number of workers and people in order to demand economic and political changes, as well as to condemn and expose the exploitative and oppressive character of imperialism. Let us link with anti-imperialist organizations the world over and launch coordinated campaigns and protest action. Long live the Lucy Gonzalez Parsons Institute. Long live the struggle of the working class of the USA and the world. Long live international solidarity.